Janine Allis, welcome to Coffee Chats. Janine Allis, welcome to Coffee Chats.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Great to have you on the show. Lots of stuff to talk to you about, Janine. A lot of people know you as the founder of Boost Juice, but the entrepreneurial superstar you are on Shark Tank, and my personal favourite being a very cagey player on Survivor, I don't mind saying. But first of all, I've got to ask, are you a coffee drinker?
Look, I am. I do love my coffee in the morning. I'm actually a dirty chai girl.
Uh-huh.
With almond. I know, it's
almond
so
milk.
far away from being a coffee, it's not, but it is.
You definitely live in Melbourne then, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I know, yes, yeah. It's actually delicious. You should try it.
Yeah, no. Well, a lot of guests have said the old dirty chai. I don't think I've ever had one, but I think I'm going to have to try it. As I said, normally in Melbourne, but you're actually at the moment based out of Noosa. I know you've got property there, but you're here for an extended stay, it looks like.
Yeah, look, we booked in a few weeks ago. We come up here on a regular basis because we've also got businesses up here. So we're always up here for various reasons and have been for the last 7 years. And then obviously when the world imploded, the rules were very clear. It was stay put. And so we sort of, in the school, Charlie was out of school, and we thought, look, the safest thing right now is to do what everyone's saying and not move. And so we just basically then worked our way to, we started to work from Noosa until borders open up and we can actually go home.
Tough place to be stranded though, Janine. Yeah. Noosa.
Yeah, poor me. Yeah, what a shame. We could be in 13 degrees in Melbourne.
That's right. I've got to ask.
Such a rule follower.
Yeah, that's right. I've seen you on Survivor, Janine, so I know that's not true.
I tell you what, the similarities of Survivor to this is, first and foremost, I'm going completely grey, which is what I was in Survivor. but the other thing is, because hairdressers are closed, the other thing is that feeling of gratefulness. I think when things are taken away from you, which they were on Survivor, like warmth and heat and a pillow and bed,
blanket,
you actually become really grateful. And I think the similarities between this is like, so freedoms have been taken away from us, and a number of things have, and so that feeling of gratefulness once again comes into play. So I think that there's a lot of good will come out of this bad.
Well, I want to talk to you about Noosa specifically, but you make some good points there. What sort of things is Janine Allis most grateful for?
Look, Janine Allis is a very busy woman with regard to travel. Like I spend, up until the coronavirus hit, I was on a plane probably, about 3 days a week. I was nearly away at that time. So what I'm grateful for is to spend more time with my daughter and not be actually this manic person that's always traveling, doing things, in meetings. So just to actually go, I'm still working probably the same amount of hours, but to be actually more present is actually a really good lesson for me. And enjoying it, because sometimes it's sort of like you get a bit itchy with regard to, you have to achieve and you have to get forward and you have to get things done. And to be able to actually be in an environment, like Noosa, which is just paradise. I mean, I've traveled over the world and you don't get any better than Noosa. And to also, more importantly, spend quality time with my husband and my daughter is just gold. And
she must be enjoying it too, right?
Oh, yeah, she is. So she goes to school, a virtual school, because schools are closed downstairs, down in our downstairs lobby, sort of basement. Yeah. And at lunchtime, we go for a swim in the ocean instead of, her hanging out at the playground. So she's, it's just, and the thing, we're not lost on the fact how lucky we are. I mean, we don't sort of go there and go, oh, yes, this is our normal. We just go, oh, my God, we are in paradise. How lucky are we?
Yes. I know a lot of, sad to say, but a lot of husbands and wives, because they are all of a sudden spending so much time together, are really struggling with that much. How are you and your hubby coping?
Look, it's interesting because we've been married for 25 years, and there's definitely been times when we look at each other and go, one of us has to travel, we need some time apart.
Get away from me.
But get away from me, love you, but I've got to say, because we've been now here for nearly 8 weeks, 6 weeks, and we actually was talking last night, going, hey, we're doing surprisingly well. I think.
Look at us go.
And I know. I think the reason being is I think there's a level of intensity that comes off with the current scenario where you go, you know what, we work from home, we can't be this manic. And I think that relates to being a calmer and nicer person. So I think we're both nicer people. So I think we're being nicer to each other, which means we're actually getting along really well.
Oh, good. Glad to hear that.
Yeah, me too.
Being shacked up at home in Noosa, albeit in beautiful Noosa, but you must still be getting the phone calls from, your various employees. What are some of the challenges that you're dealing with from a business perspective at the moment?
Look, I think the challenge is like anyone in retail, is the fact that you've gone from, in a very quick moment, you've gone from business flying to it falling off the cliff. And, and that's everyone. So it's not like you're suddenly going, oh, something's wrong with the brand or whatever. So then what comes with that is, everyone has to sort of, unfortunately share some of the pain, because the businesses aren't physically, either they're open or they've dropped by 80% in sales. So the really hardship is managing, the staff and, redundancies and trying to manage through this to try and get to the other end so we can rehire and we can grow again. But I've got to say, the government has done, I think, an exceptional job in taking away some of the blow with JobKeeper. That's been a real game changer. And having the code of conduct with landlords, which gives a little bit of fairness for both parties, the tenants and the landlords, has been really enabled us to navigate our way through this.
You'd be as good a person as any to ask, what does things like the JobKeeper scheme, the future of that, once things do go quote unquote back to normal, what does that look like then? Are businesses then having to pay that back, do you think, in whichever sort of way?
No, you don't pay it back. I think the good thing about it is they're actually allowing you to, because without JobKeeper, you wouldn't be able to hold those people on jobs. You'd have no choice other than, stand them down for a period of time until you actually got income coming in. No business, no matter how big or strong you are, can actually cope with a drop in revenue by 80%. I mean, it just doesn't happen. So JobKeeper enables you to keep those people on, whether they're working or not for you, even if the stores are closed. So that means you've got a great relationship with them. So when you actually come out the other end, then there's a seamlessness that comes to, okay, you've now got hours, we now keep working, we now put you back on to the hours that you were doing, or whatever it looks like pre-CV19. Back to normality. So there's not like we owe the government that money back. It's the government is basically helping us to maintain our relationship and our workforce.
Sure, so I certainly appreciate that. I guess what I'm asking is, do you think that it might be paid back unknowingly for a lot of businesses, but through extra taxes or through something else that the government uses to try to recoup that money?
Sorry, I understand it. Look, I think that, probably if they're smart, no. And the reason I say if they're smart is because where they get the majority of their income will be with the growth of the economy. So if you start to tax people and you tax companies more, then those businesses will not be able to grow. Or if you tax the people, then they won't be able to spend. So the best way, in actual fact, to get the economy back and to get more money in the more tax money is to actually encourage growth and encourage businesses to be bigger and encourage international money coming into this business. That's actually how you get back to lots of taxes coming in, because the more money businesses make, the more tax you actually get paid. I mean, in actual fact, people sort of complain about tax even personally, but the reality is the more tax you pay, the more money you're making.
So it means you're doing okay. Yeah.
They're doing okay. So I would be surprised with the current track record of the current government, whether they would go down the path of, increasing GST to say 15% or, whatever else they do, because they really need to encourage growth.
Got it.
Particularly to not go into a recession.
Um, Speaking of your company, Retail Zoo, on the ballpark, what sort of damage has it done to you?
Look, like any retailer, if people aren't allowed to go out, or you can't have, with our burgers, Betty's Burgers, if you can't go in and sit, of course the sales are going to be done. But the great thing about Australia is, compared to the rest of the world, is that I actually feel like the wound that we've got is actually a lot smaller than a lot of other countries, because we haven't got the millions, thousands, hundreds of thousands of deaths and hundreds of thousands of cases. We're actually in a situation where we should come out of it relatively quickly, and because of that, we will, I believe, bounce back quite quickly. As soon as you release some of the restrictions, then people will come out and have this built-up thing of, I need to go out and I need to go to cafes again. I need to,
Have some interaction.
Have some interaction and go to a supermarket, because we're about, Boost particularly is about traffic flow. So the traffic flow has been taken away. So you increase that traffic flow, then obviously sales will come back. So, so for me, it's, obviously the profit's not there, but at the end of the day, it's a really robust business that will actually get through to the other end, and we will be fine. And I think the other thing which we've proven is Australians they trust the government, so they're going to support the government. So I think the initiatives they're putting in place, which is the app and continue testing and tracing, I think that will enable us to manage it, so we don't actually go back to this sort of lockdown.
Did you have to modify things much or at all to make sure that the businesses did survive through this time?
Look, you have to modify. Probably not modify. I think you've had to actually react very quickly. So we had to actually look at our expenses. We had to talk to suppliers. We had to work with all our key stakeholders to ensure that we come out the other side strong. So we can actually, not only be stronger, but continue to grow, which hopefully means that we have more staff on and we can get bigger and better. So, but nothing really. We haven't really reinvented the business. I think what it does do, it gives all businesses, not just retail, so all businesses to have a really good look at the business to say, have we got the expenses right? Are we running the business as effective as possible? So it's a really good reminder for businesses, are we as good as we possibly can be? And so, I think a lot of businesses now looking at every line item, which we probably haven't done before because we haven't needed to. So I think that the businesses that come out the other end will actually be stronger businesses because of this.
It's like any hardship, isn't it? There's always a shining light for some, whichever reason it is. But as you say, the businesses that do survive will come out and say, well, we're actually a better business because of COVID-19.
Correct. And that's, as you said, with everything. Like, you look back, even you personally, and think about some of the hardest times you've had. On reflection, in a number of years later or a number of months later, you go, oh my God, that was the best. Even at the time, I thought it was bad. It was the best thing that happened because of, here's a long list of things.
That's right. There's been plenty of those, Janine, can I say?
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll spend a little bit of time on Boost Juice. I want the 30-second version. How did it start?
Oh, right. Okay. Well, look, it started, I had given birth to my third son, and didn't want to work for someone again. And so my husband and I were quite, we wanted to, do our own business and do something that do retailing differently and really sort of give that customer experience that no one else could give. And so we started with an idea of, wouldn't it be good if we can get more vegetables, fruit and vegetables in people's diet? Wouldn't it be good if we can give people a retail experience like none other? And it started with that, and then Boost was born. That was done in 2000, so nearly 20 years ago. Just over 20 years ago. And so now we've got over 600 stores, a number of brands. We're in 15 different countries. So no, it's been a hell of a ride.
But it started on your kitchen bench. Is that correct?
Yeah, it does. And if you think about any brand, quite often we see big brands and they think we've always been big, but they always have to start with an idea. And
Exactly.
And absolutely, though, every single recipe was created on my kitchen bench, and lots of blenders and lots of fruit and lots of veggies and trialing, and giving it to my kids and giving it to my friends, and eventually came up with what I thought would work. And clearly, I have obviously a taste that everyone else likes.
There you go. Well, my very first coffee chat was outside a public toilet, and here I am today talking to your good self, Janine. So there you go.
Nothing wrong with that.
That's right. But were you surprised by the success? Even now, do you look back and think, I can't believe I am where I am?
I think at the start, I was so busy. I had 3 young babies at home and was running a business. So I never really knew, I had nothing to compare to. Like, my experience certainly wasn't in business, and I haven't got a business bone in my body. So I had to learn it on the run. So I think that also with businesses, I never feel like we're there yet. I always think that there's more to grow, there's more to improve, there's always a better way, always looking for a better way. I think the day you think you're there is the day that business will start going backwards. So, I certainly have a view that we've still got a long way to go.
From having seen you on Shark Tank and Survivor, and Survivor especially, because we got to see, albeit there's a lot of editing and we don't see 24 hours of the day, I get all that, but we got to see the real Janine, and there's definitely a strong competitive vein in your body, in fact quite a few of them. That's obviously who you are as a business person. Would that be fair to say?
I'm ridiculously competitive. You ask my kids even playing cards. Yeah, I don't care I have no care that my daughter's 11. I will not let her win. Like, and always have been. I've been, my big sport was netball, and I played at really top level of netball, and I've always loved the competitive nature and the fun of sport, and so I've always wanted to push and test myself, and so the ultimate game, Survivor, I've always been a fan. So even the challenges, and I was one of the oldest ones out there, but it was really interesting to see.
It didn't show though, did it?
No, thank you. And I remember one time I rocked up to a challenge, and Sean, who's 6'5" and an incredible athlete, said to me, "Oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to beat you on this one." And I just went, "Oh my God, really? Did you just say that to me? Who clearly I'm not a professional sportsman." But it was interesting how the mental game, or even the mental and the physical side, actually got you through a lot further than actually just physical muscle. So it's a really good social experiment. It's quite fascinating, actually.
Well, definitely competitive. That goes without saying. But the little that I know about business is it's then tough to balance being a good, inspiring leader. But I'm going to assume you've been able to find that balance. Is that something that's a struggle for you to do?
To be an inspiring leader, I don't think you can be something. I think you either am it. I don't think that's the word. I think you either are an inspiring leader, and I think that you can't go, I'm going off to be that. You actually have to be first and foremost true to yourself. And you have to have clear communication, and you have to, sometimes people go, inspiring leader is not someone who lets people get away with things. Inspiring leader is someone to actually set a standard and keep people to that standard. And it's like, I actually relate everything to sport, where if I would like to, as I said, I'm competitive. I want to play in a team that has the best possible team, and I want people who are like-minded to come and play in my team. So if you lower the bar and you've got a whole lot of people around you that are guns, and they go, well, why are you putting up with that person over there? Because that person's letting the team down. That's actually not inspiring leadership. It's actually setting a goal and actually keeping people to it. So it's interesting what people see as inspiring leadership. I think it's just great communication. Say what you do or do what you say. When you're wrong, put your hand up and admit it. Allow people to shine. Allow people to be the best they can possibly be, and edit the people that aren't on the right team.
Is that easier or harder to do running X amount of franchises across multiple countries?
Look, I'm sort of at the stage now that I've got a phenomenal CEO in the business. We've got great executives. So I'm sort of a little bit more of a step away from sort of that day to day as I was in the earlier days. So it is obviously a juggling act, but it really does get down to really clear communication. Because I can tell you now, if you don't communicate clearly, people will make it up and it'll always be 10 times worse than what the reality is.
Exactly.
So it's so in communication in business is the most critical thing. The other thing is making decisions. No one respects a leader who is dithering around the decision. You know, a leader that gets the information they have and they make a decision based on the information at hand, surrounded by experts, not expecting them to know everything. And also, I also believe the greatest leaders are the ones that surround themselves with people smarter than themselves as well, and giving those people that respect.
I mean, someone that's so all over business, and you know, there's a lot of boxes that you've ticked. What would be your biggest weakness? What's the biggest thing that you need to work on, would you say?
I think I could spell better.
I know, I've seen some of your messages.
I know, seriously. Look, I think that in actual fact, you've got to be careful to blunt people's sword, because sometimes their strength or their weakness is actually part of their strength. So, for example, if you sort of say to someone who's a creative, do you know what, I need you to be more analytical. I know that you're really great at this, you know, design work, but I need you to do the paperwork really well. So in actual fact, by actually forcing them out of what they're great at, you might actually be blunting their sword with regard to what they're truly good at, and instead surrounding themselves with an analytical. So in actual fact, my weaknesses, which, you know, I'm not being horrible, but I can't really go, here is a list of my weaknesses, because I actually always see weaknesses as opportunities, so I don't see them as weaknesses. So you could ask the same question as to me is, tell me all the things that you've done wrong in your business. Well, we would be talking for about 12 days, for 24/7 for me to tell you all the things that have gone wrong. But then a bit like what we're currently facing with the coronavirus, every single thing that goes wrong in business and every single fault that you have, that comes with a lesson. So without the faults and without the lessons, without things going wrong, you cannot improve and be the person you need to be. So in actual fact, anything that's negative is never a negative. It's an opportunity, or it's a lesson, or it's a learning. And the worst thing that's happened in my business has always turned out to be the best, because the business is stronger because of those negatives. Sure. And so I'd like to think, to your question, that all my negatives, you know, hopefully I can recognize them and makes me a better person I possibly can be.
I'll just go back a step then. You mentioned about, you know, blunting the employee's sword, which is all good and well to say when you have a team or you're part of a big organization. But for a lot of people that listen to this, they're going to be one-man band small business owners, and you can't delegate. So in a sense, that they do have to work on the paperwork or the sales or the customer service.
Yeah, and that's right. And if people sort of leave accounting to someone else, like I don't think I'm a natural, I'm probably more of a creative analytical, but I force myself to actually understand numbers. I force myself to actually have high attention to detail with regard to contracts, because it actually matters. So just because you think I'm not good at that doesn't mean you've got to leave it. So I'm a firm believer that businesses will fail if you don't understand your numbers. If you don't get a P&L every month to understand if you're making money or not making money and where your holes are, well, your business will have no other way to go but out. So, and people tend to lean towards the fun stuff. They lean towards the logos and the pretty colours and the, you know, that all the stuff that they find that's really fun. But they don't actually like to focus on the, you know, handling invoices, checking off things, because for that people is boring. Exactly. You've got to actually learn to love the boring stuff, because your numbers and your boring stuff, so-called, will actually will be the difference between your success and failure. So you need to learn to love it. I find that I loved my numbers in the end, and I loved the details because it took away stress in the business. Because for me to understand my numbers and for me to understand my contracts meant that there wasn't any unknowns going forward, and I can make decisions effective based on facts instead of just winging it, or I think that could be the case. So And that's the difference between, you know, the amount of people I've come across, small businesses that have gone, oh, I didn't realise that most of my sales were on this particular item, but I'm always out of stock of that item. I should, like, it's just like, it's perplexing to me for people to not actually spend the time to sit back and actually do your own numbers. And these days with Xero and MyOb and QuickBooks, you know, there's no excuse.
There's no reason why they shouldn't.
No, you've got to take the time.
I mean, a great segue into Shark Tank, because that was something that I noticed all too often. People would come in very passionate about their idea and very passionate about the potential and thinking of, you know, potential revenue that comes in. But you guys, the Sharks, would say, tell me about the numbers. And a lot of the time they had no idea.
No, correct. And that is very common, because people often start a business with the idea of, wouldn't it be good if? Wouldn't it be good if, you know, quite often women that have children tend to go and start a business for children because they go, oh, there's a hole in the market.
There's a hole there, yeah.
You know, I can't get that. But then, but then you're right, you go, they start it, but then you go, well, you know, your gross margins are out of control. You need to go and renegotiate, or you need to go and, you know, find a cheaper product or negotiate the cheaper freight. So it was one of those things where people didn't know what was right or wrong. So it was really hard when people came in and they just didn't know their numbers to actually invest, because we know that if you're not across your numbers, then there's only really one way the business can possibly go.
Exactly. When you're sitting in that chair there and all these ideas are being thrown at you, what's the couple of things you're ticking off mentally in your mind as to this could be a viable idea?
One of the key things that goes through my mind is how they're answering the questions, because I fundamentally think there's two types of people in the world, particularly in business, and one that will be successful and one that will fail. So and the two people are, and I'll give you the acronym for it. It's VERB. If there a verb, which is a victim. So in other words, oh, my sales are down, it's not my fault, it's because of petrol prices, because
it's COVID-19, right? Yeah.
It's COVID-19, which is probably fair enough to blame that one. That's the only time, yeah. Entitled, you know, those people that go, oh, yeah, I've been in this job for 10 years, I'm entitled to promotion. They need to be rescued. They never start to think about the problems and how to solve it. They just automatically go to someone else and going, help me, I need to be saved. And the other one is blame. So the blame. So they blame the world for their woes instead of actually taking accountability, because as soon as you blame someone else, you actually give that power away, so you can't fix it. So for example, you know, even COVID-19, right? So yes, we understand there's things you can't do, but in your business, what can you do? You know, can you go more online? Can you deliver? Can you make your business? There's a lot of things you can do. So when I listen to people, I try to hear their answers, whether they're prepared to find solutions or they're trying to blame. So the other side of it is SOAR, which is they're solution-based. They're always prepared to find a solution. They take ownership. If in business it's your fault, you've got a chance of fixing it. They're accountable for the outcome, and they're responsible for the outcome. So if you communicate in a SOAR manner, then I'm definitely interested in doing business with them. I don't really care what business is. Business in general interests me.
So you're really more or less assessing the person besides the potential business.
Yeah, correct, both. So obviously, if I think the product is fundamentally flawed, then you know I probably won't be interested. But if they've got a great product, that it's all about, you know, doom and gloom, and it's not their fault and it's everyone else's fault, and then I wouldn't be interested, because in actual fact, businesses, no matter how good they are, will go through their ups and downs, and you have to be prepared to be able to go with the waves and have to be a solution-based person to actually survive in business. And if you're not, even if the business might be doing well at the time, it won't do well long term, because businesses will have their ups and downs and their blips.
Janine, I certainly appreciate your time today. Obviously, you're doing lots of different things, so fitting me in is I'm very, very grateful. But it would be remiss of me not to finish by I'm much like yourself, I'm sure. I'm a huge Survivor fan, So much so that I reached out to your good friend Dirty Harry before our conversation
Oh,
today,
yes.
and
Yeah.
I let him know I was chatting with you today, and he had some wonderful things to say about you. I said, "Is there something you'd like me to, a comment you'd like me to let Janine know?" And he said, "Janine is a woman that's time is worth thousands upon thousands of dollars. If you can get her on the line, the last thing you want to talk about is her relationship with me."
Oh, has no, he was a great. He was. He's not. He's not dead. He's no. He's a great guy. And I think one of the great things about Survivor is, and Harry is a guy that makes ice cream. I'm the a girl that makes smoothies.
Mm.
But the reality is, what was great about that, no one was anything better or worse than anyone else. Didn't matter you were a rock star footballer or a rock star businesswoman or a rock star maker
Actress.
of ice cream.
Yeah.
We were just, or actress, good old Pia, I do love her. You were just actually people, and I think that was what was gorgeous about that. Like sitting around a fire and just talking about family, or talking about some of their challenges, or their loves of their life, or that was a really sweet part for me, because people see you right now as this business person, but really I'm a girl from the burbs, exactly like Luke was from his area. So you'd be surprised how much people have in common. And just because, Pia was a famous actress, she's just a great chick that, we had a great laugh with, and she kept me warm at night, so.
Well, you
So
guys
it's,
had a great relationship. You certainly did. But I'm interested though, for some of those people, and Luke, you mentioned then it was one of them. The money was some sort of motivator for them, even if it was a small percentage. I'm going to guess for you, and I'm making huge assumptions here, but you going into the jungle for 30 plus days was not about the monetary reward. What exactly was it?
No, the money, in actual fact, I had every intention of giving it to charity if I won. So money was not the thing. But for me, it was the experience. Imagine, when they actually asked me, I kind of went, oh, I'm going to say yes to this. I know I am. Because how do you not get an opportunity to have an experience like that in a lifetime? I love the game. I love games. I'm very competitive, and it's nearly the ultimate game because it tests you physically, it tests you mentally, it tests you emotionally, and strategically. So it has all the bits. So for me, it was like, nah, this is something that I can't say no to. And you know what? It is tough at 2 o'clock in the morning when a storm comes in and we're really crap at building shelters and they leak. And it isn't fun when you've got and then they don't sort of give you dry clothes if you get wet. It's bad luck, guys.
Yeah.
But I think that was. But how often can you get tested that way? It's just it's actually quite extraordinary, and I think it's it builds resilience. And I think that's why, in some respects, you get you become quite close to people that you probably never would have come across. Like David Gant, the model. I mean, even though we plotted to get him out, we're great mates. Pia, I would speak to her at least once a week still today. And Harry, he came down a few weeks ago over summer, and it was him, Sean, Megan, Pia, Lydia, Sian. We all sort of got out and we spent a weekend on the coast in Melbourne.
Oh, wow.
And even from other seasons, like Lydia was never in our season, and neither was Sian. However, we have an annual girls' retreat in Noosa, where it was only a few weeks ago that Pia, me, Lydia, Sian, we all sort of hung out here and had a surfing weekend. So it's actually quite an extraordinary family that you sort of connect with.
You can't help but be close to them, right?
No, correct. And even to a point when David said, look, Janine, can you take your clothes off to help to help the guys with a towel challenge? It was hard to say no.
Exactly. I'm interested, have you watched back your series on TV?
Yeah, we watched it. Actually, it was really good to watch it with the family because obviously it's well filmed by the time you're out, and it was good to see what everyone was saying about you and how they were plotting and ploying with you. So it was quite funny to watch it.
Did you watch it and think, that wasn't me or that was me?
I think that they were probably kind to me in the edit. I probably am more goofy.
Really?
Then actually, yeah, I know. I probably did a lot more stupid things than actually show, which was nice of them to not show it. And you know, as I said, I make words up and all sorts, which they're kind enough to edit those out. But I think in essence, you are who you are, and I think that if they're going to film you that much, you're going to come across as the person you are. You know, so you know, I think that they sort of reflected me quite accurately. I think that the only thing that I got a little bit sort of like, oh really, was so when they're in they're called VOs, voiceovers, when you're doing the sitting down, they do one-on-ones.
Yeah.
You know, they'd ask me a question, I'd answer it, and they said, well, I'm a businesswoman. So I go, oh, okay. Well, in business is how we would do it. And then consequently, when they filmed it, it was constantly in business. And then, and I was like, oh, for God's sake, even I was over the fact that I kept saying on business, because they kept repeating the one line that I used once.
Yeah,
and then,
right.
And so peers did the same. So as an actress, and we're going, oh, for God's sake, are we really? Like, but look, really, I thought the editors, you know, considering the amount of, footage they have to get through, I think they do a really good job.
Are the cameras right there? Like, are they a metre away from you guys most of the day?
You don't actually notice, and there's not that many cameras. There's probably up to 4 at a peak time, and normally just 1 or 2, and there's only one guy at night. So they do vanish, to a point where, because I was renowned as being a thief. So we'd go to a challenge, and I'd try and steal the cutlery and stuff. And then, right? Yeah, it was shocking. And then, but then I was so stupid that I forgot that there was a microphone near us. I go, now, everyone, just so you know, I've got a knife if we need it. And they go, Janine, give us a knife. It's like, so you do forget. So you do forget that the cameras and the audio
see
are
everything.
there after a while.
They see and hear it all,
yeah.
don't they?
Oh yeah, so which is, you think you're smarter than that, but no, after a while, with lack of sleep and lack of food,
yes,
you just go, oh, okay, here we go.
You were labelled the godmother. Was that a title that you embraced?
Oh, I just thought it was funny. For me, it was a game. So, it was, at the time I just went, oh, good on you, Harry, because I knew what he was doing. He was trying to go, hang on, she's afraid over here, I'm a good guy. So, but it was funny, it's better to be someone than nothing. And so, I called him the cockroach. He called me the godmother. I think I'd rather the godmother than the cockroach. So it's probably not a bad thing.
Exactly. Last one on Survivor. Why do you think you didn't go all the way and win?
Why didn't I go all the way and win? I think the key thing was that I needed to put probably more time in Abby. Abby started to, because Pia and I got closer and closer, and Abby started to, I think, feel a little bit left out, and I should have probably worked that relationship better. And I probably, at the date that we went to the spa challenge, I shouldn't have poor Pia, she hadn't eaten for 21 days. So I did the emotion instead of the strategic thing, and I should have taken Abby, which would have kept her close, because I knew Pia was solid, but Abby was more likely to be influenced by someone like a Luke, who was an excellent player. So probably that way, because then that meant that I would have got to final 3, guaranteed, if that was the case. Whether I could have outstood Abby and Pia at the end, I don't know. And even Pia, and we are, as I said, thick as thieves, but even then we said, look, when it gets to final 3, all bets are off. You take the person you think you can beat. So I'm
going to cut your throat.
Yeah, and that was okay, because that's part of the game. But look, at the end of the day, I did 44 days. I got top 6. So I was actually, and to be honest, there was part of me when I got voted out that a little part of me went, oh my God, thank God.
This year they had the All-Star Series. Was there an invitation to you to be involved in that?
Yeah, there was. The producer called me and said, please do it, please do it. And I just went, and it was 6 weeks. I just got out 6 weeks. And, I have a business, I have a family, I have a lot, I was still mentally scarred from the first one. So I just went, look, if they had given me a bit more, it was a bit more space, I probably could have considered it. But 6 weeks was just too soon. I mean, it was just too much to ask for. And, Abby went in, Daisy went in, David,
Harry,
John, Harry, there was a few of them, and it was pretty tough on you physically and mentally, like to do it. I think because I don't think people understand how you come out a little bit twisted for a little while, which is not bad because probably the best people are a bit twisted.
Exactly.
So I think that it was just a little bit too soon. I think, at the time I remember standing with Pierre and looked at Luke and went, Luke is an idiot to come back twice. Who would do this twice? You'd be crazy. And then I was speaking to her later and we said, would we do it again? And I think the only way I would do it again, I think, is if there was like a blood versus water. There's one of those in America where you take your loved one in.
Your family members,
Yeah, and I know my son would kill to do it. So I think I would probably do it again if it gave him the opportunity to get on. But I think other than that, I don't know. I think I might have, put my buff up on the mantelpiece for a long time.
Well, it would be a real shame, can I say? It'd be great to see you conniving Janine again. Would be great to see. Janine Allis, last question. I'm most interested in this one. Moving forward, where do you see the next business or the next industry that's really going to be flourishing?
I don't know if we know. I think because sometimes, quite often something that pops up, you wouldn't expect it to be an industry, and then suddenly it is, like electric cars or, I'm telling you now, when I first started business, I never would have thought there was something called the internet. So
exactly.
you don't actually know what's coming. I think the key thing is that, with AI and with everything that's around us, anything's possible, so certainly online and digital is always going to be a strong growth prospect. However, people still like the social aspect. People still want to get out. People still want to, to be a bit more hands-on. So look, you know what? I actually don't know.
Do you think that this global pandemic, we're all having to stay indoors a lot more, do you think that will create new industries?
Yeah, I think it will create new industries and new way of thinking. It takes 21 days to create a habit, and we're all being locked down a lot longer than 21 days. So,
right.
So people will, there might be more people from working from home. There'll probably be more people that do e-commerce. The last people that were sort of doing it, that weren't doing it, are now doing it. There'll be a lot more deliveries. There'll be a lot more of, I think, the things that were sort of up and coming. I think it's fast-tracked. But I also think that particularly Australia, who hasn't been as hit as longer and as hard as most countries, I think we'll pretty much go back to the way we were as well. And I think that people will be looking forward to that as well. They'll be happy to go back to, just have some normality. I think that's what people are looking forward to. But I think people also will take a while to do that, because it is going to be a shock to go back to normal as well, because this is our new normal for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. Is there a new business that you're working on, or a new industry that you're looking at being a part of?
Oh, mate, there's always something new. There's always something you're looking at. And, probably 10 of them will fall off and one of them might pop. So, watch this space. There's always something that you're looking at. And you've got to look at this era. You have to just go, what can I get that's good out of this? First and foremost, I bought an Australian Shepherd because, 2 dogs isn't enough. And so while we're at Noosa, we got another dog.
Oh, wow.
So, there's all good that comes out of it.
Yeah. Well, exciting times ahead. Janine Allis, really appreciate your time. A fantastic chat. Enjoy the rest of your time in Noosa, won't you?
No, my pleasure. I will. I'm not that hard.